So let's start with the very beginning of the day. A lot of teams like to have these stand-up or status meetings, depending on whether you're doing Agile or not, in the beginning of the day. This is because if there are issues, they're brought up in the beginning of the day as opposed to the end of the day where someone may be sitting around blocked for an entire day. The ultimate decision, though, should be on what time is most convenient for the team. So in our stand-up, we have everyone involved with the team, interested parties. But the important part of a stand-up is that only the people that are taking on work should be the one giving statuses. We have other related parties listening in case there's more information that they need or they want to have a break-off session. But the real important point here is for the team to be able to discuss amongst themselves, those doing the work, what we did yesterday, what we're doing today, and if we have any issues. So it starts with going around the room, or in most cases now, the virtual room, with what everyone's doing. We'll start with the lead developer, us. Because we're currently working on this fairly complex flow involving redoing how authentication works for our own employees, most people don't care about that level of detail, so I just state, I'm working on Okta-based login. I don't have any issues, but I'm planning on being able to roll this out today sometime. We then go to the next member, which is a QE or quality engineer, and they state, I'm working on the web-based testing framework. For those who aren't familiar with that, that's the Selenium-based implementation for driving the user interface for testing, in my case, specifically the new invoice flow. Then Dev 2 states, I'm supposed to replace the REST template implementation because it's a performance bottleneck, but I'm unsure of what to do next or where the change needs to be made. So if someone could help me out, let's have a break-off session after the stand-up. The lead dev then chimes in and says, hey, I'm the one that found this. It has to do with the REST template library being single-threaded, and the way you test it is by doing multiple purchase orders. The Scrum Master then steps in and says, hey, that's a lot of detail here. Maybe we can take this into a breakout session. That's something the Scrum Master will usually do because lead devs can sometimes get very excited about solving a problem with devs in general. But again, the focus of the stand-up session is to get a general status. So we really want to not have any problem solving occur inside of the stand-up meeting. Also consider how important this is because sometimes you'll have visitors come in who want to get a general sense of what's going on. And if, let's say, you're a VP of something, when the developers start talking about RESTful interfaces and whatnot, they're either going to leave or fall asleep. We then move on to Dev 3, who just joined the project, who doesn't report a status because they're still setting up a development environment and don't really have any questions right now because they don't have any assigned work. It's 9:15. So since the lead dev and Dev 2 need to talk about something specifically, they themselves, along with the product owner, start their own virtual meeting and have a discussion about what Dev 2 is having trouble with. So specifically, Dev 2 is asking, what do I do? How do I test this? What is this all about? So as the lead dev, we have a good amount of context, so we attempt to explain this. It starts with an architectural understanding of the system. We have some web-based UI that talks to a backend we call the BFF. And in the case of having to talk to external systems, we make outgoing requests via REST, in this case to a third party. We have a single utility class that we use to do all that RESTful communication that makes use of this underlying library that's specific to our technology stack, in this case Spring, that is used to do the outgoing communication with REST template. The problem with REST template is that it's single-threaded, meaning that if there are two calls into the same endpoint that involves invoking this REST template, the second call has to first wait for the first call to finish. This creates a bottleneck that when we look at our endpoint responses, we can tell as we're submitting more and more purchase orders that result in using this REST template class, it causes a linear increase in endpoint response. This is a big bottleneck and a big problem. So how do we test this? Multiple purchase orders. What does this affect? Possibly a lot of stuff.